There is always one kid in a family who eventually stops explaining themselves. They stop answering the group chat. They show up late to holidays. They leave early. They share less about their life. And everyone has a name for them. Difficult, cold, too sensitive. But here's the question nobody asks. What happened to make them stop trying to be understood? There are 5 psychological patterns behind the black sheep child, and the 4th one may explain more than you think. Number 1. They stopped asking for approval. At some point, they realized something painful. The approval was never unconditional. They could change their clothes, their opinions, their personality, even their dreams, and someone would still find something wrong. So they stopped auditioning. It wasn't rebellion. It was the moment they realized they didn't need permission to become themselves. But that's only the beginning. Because the next pattern is something they often remember for years. Number 2. They remember what everyone else learned to ignore. The comparisons, the passive-aggressive comments, the favoritism, the moments nobody wanted to talk about. The black sheep is often called too sensitive, because they noticed things other people learned to normalize. They weren't necessarily imagining the tension. Sometimes, they were simply the first person to acknowledge it. They weren't the problem child. They were the smoke detector. And smoke detectors are annoying when nobody wants to admit there's smoke. But what happens when that child grows up? That's where everything changes. Number 3. They create distance. And from the outside, it can look like coldness. But sometimes, distance isn't punishment. It's protection. After years of feeling misunderstood, they finally discover something they didn't have as a child. Peace. So they protect it. They don't leave because they hate everyone. They leave because they've learned what happens when they keep abandoning themselves just to keep everyone else comfortable. And the next sign is often mistaken for selfishness. Number 4. They choose a different life. Different values, different goals, a different definition of success. And this can terrify a family that expects everyone to follow the same path. But individuality isn't always defiance. Sometimes, it's simply growth. They weren't rejecting their family. They were refusing to disappear inside it. And once someone learns how to live without constant approval, they become very difficult to control. But there's one final change, and it's usually the most misunderstood. Number 5. They stop explaining themselves. This is the part most people completely misunderstand. They still care. They just learned that explaining yourself doesn't work when someone has already decided who you are. Some people don't listen to understand. They listen to prepare their response. So eventually, the black sheep stops defending every decision, stops correcting every accusation, stops begging to be believed, not because they have nothing to say, but because their peace became more valuable than their explanation. And maybe that's the real story of the black sheep. They weren't the person who broke the family. They were often the person who finally broke the pattern. So if you've ever been called difficult, distant, too sensitive, or too much, maybe you weren't broken. Maybe you were simply becoming aware. And if nobody ever thanked you for choosing yourself, let this be the first time you hear it. If you've ever felt like the black sheep, subscribe. Because understanding yourself shouldn't depend on someone else finally getting it.